Yo, what's up guys? It's the new sensation, Bigger Notation here, and today we're back from quite a bit of a break from content creation, coming off the back of just the recent European regionals for September the 9th, and I chose to play Yellow Frieza Swap in the regionals. So before we get into the deck profile, I kind of want to go through it over a couple of things. Obviously I haven't been posting on the channel very much recently. Over the past month I don't think I've posted like really at all, and like not been streaming as well. And so I do apologize for that. There's been a couple of reasons as to why. First of all, I was away for about 10 days in Scotland with my family, because I had one of my cousin's weddings, so obviously didn't have the chance to do any sort of content then. Been changing jobs at the same time, and also, to be honest, the Fusion World announcement got me really down over the last month. Like, since that announcement, I've just had very little motivation to be playing this game at the moment. But this regionals has definitely helped with all of that, and I do want to get back onto making videos and coming out with somewhat regular streams as well. So hopefully that will get started again, hopefully soon. It kind of depends how my motivation is, but you guys may have to bear with me is kind of what I'm trying to say here. It's been a rough road these past month or two since that Fusion World announcement. I think a lot of people are kind of concerned about the state of the game going forwards, but we'll see. At the end of the day, all we can do is just keep playing and play the game that we enjoy, I guess. And as well as that, I believe in my brief hiatus was around that time period that the channel hit 1,000 subs, which is a huge milestone, and I'm so proud and honored to be able to be a part of that. Like, I really appreciate the support. Like, it means the absolute world to me that there are people out there that want to watch me talk about what I'm passionate about, you know. Like, that is incredible that there is 1,000 of you who want to watch that regularly. Like, you have no idea how much that means to me. So I appreciate that. There is going to be hopefully a celebrations video that I'll put together at some point soon. Like I say, my motivation has been fairly low recently. Since the regionals, I'm definitely feeling the game again. I'm looking at the new set, and I'm excited to get back into things. But there is definitely a celebrations video that I have in mind to make for the 1,000 subs. So hopefully, like I say, it'll take a lot more effort than some of these much more off the dome videos that I do with like deck profiles and stuff. But hopefully I can work on that and get that out to you within maybe a month or so. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, I ended up playing Frieza Swap for the regionals. Set 22. Is it? I think we're on set 22 now. Yeah, it is set 22. Set 22 was legal for the event. However, I couldn't really play any set 22 decks because I want to play Cell Max, but you need the TPs for that, and you know, for the UK it's quite hard to get TPs, especially in the early like couple of weeks of release. We don't really get TPs very often. I wanted to play Black, but on pre-release, none of my locals at my pre-release pulled a single copy of the 7-drop Cumber, so I didn't really want to play Black if I'm kind of, you know, down a peg compared to the other Black players in the room. So I do want to wait until I have Black at full power before I can start bringing out more Black decks again. And so that kind of left me with the only option being Frieza Swap, because I feel like Yellow is very well situated in the format right now because it can deal with the Gogeta deck the best, and I figured people are going to be on Gogeta because it is a new deck. People will want to play their new decks if they've just got them like the last week, because they're going to be excited about them. And you know, Yellow can do fairly well into Green Gohan as well, which is I guess the other big contender to be thinking about at the moment. So yeah, that's kind of why I picked Yellow, and the only real Yellow deck that has connected with me since Yellow Bojack has been Frieza Swap. I have really enjoyed this deck in recent times. It is very fun to play. It has a lot of really cool sequencing, a lot of pitch stacking. If you're familiar with Flesh and Blood, you can stack your deck throughout the game, and then you'll just, as long as you can memorize the order of your deck as you go throughout the game, then you can just know what you're going to draw and combo each turn, so that you can set up like ridiculous turns where you super combo and draw into SCR when you know you're about to by, using the 8-drop skill from Z Energy to dig down to your SCR. Stuff like that is very, very fun to pull off, and very like consistently you'll pull that off when you go for kill turns with this deck. So once you get to the point where you can start memorizing the order of your deck as you use your leader skill throughout the game, it is an extremely rewarding deck to play. So in terms of the regionals, it was 5 rounds. Unfortunately, it was cut short due to there being only one undefeated. It was intended to be 6 rounds. I ended up finishing 8th place, going X1, so 4 wins and 1 loss. My matchups throughout the day were, round 1 I played against the new Gogeta deck. I managed to see both my final flashes in the sideboard. I do think going forward this deck needs to consider running 3 in the sideboard because it just felt completely backbreaking in that matchup. And even though I went second, I was just able to final flash the SCR on turn 3, kill it, and then final flash his 4-drop on turn 4, and then just push through from there. Round 2 I played against Soul Striker, and that was my only loss for the day. It did come down to time on time, unfortunately. I do feel like I was in a fairly good position to win if it didn't come to end of time procedures, so did feel a bit unfortunate in that case. But you know, end of time procedures is a thing, and if I'm gonna play a yellow deck and pair against another yellow or blue deck, that's just gonna be a thing that happens sometimes, unfortunately. The rest of the remaining 3 matchups, I can't quite remember what I played on round 3 actually. Maybe I'll remember that at some point later in the video and just yell it out at some point. I believe round 4 was when I played versus Green Gohan, and I won the dice roll against that. And it feels like with this deck, if you win the dice roll against Green Gohan, it feels like a free matchup, and if you lose the dice roll, it is really, really tough. That's only from the one game that I tested of the matchup before the regionals, so it's not entirely based on like any hardcore testing, but in the one game of testing that I did against my teammate on Green Gohan prior to the regionals, going second did feel really rough, but I managed to win the dice roll, and going first is a lot easier because the barrier removal is tied to getting to, like, your opponent getting to 3 energy, so you can just hold me tied to a called Bloodlust depending on whether they drop the Goku Fated Rivals or the 8-drop. And then my last round was against SSG Trunks, which was against my teammate on -2, Francisco Castaman. Shout out to you, Francisco. Always an amazing time playing you, and a very, very strong player. I believe he ended up finishing 14th, so another Team -2 member in top 16, of course. But yeah, I managed to take the win in the final round against Francisco there. Hopefully I remember what I played against in round 3. I don't know why that's completely gone from my head, but it is currently 2 in the morning for me, so it shows you what kind of time I just feel like getting motivated to record a deck profile nowadays, I guess. But enough ramblings from me. Hopefully I remember that last matchup. We'll go into the deck. So the leader, I'll try and cover a couple of cards very quickly, but not the whole deck, because this deck has been around for a while now, and whilst it's not a meta deck necessarily, it is one of the higher contending yellow decks, I'd argue. So I'd imagine most people know what it does, but the activate main on the front side, you search top 5 for a yellow Frieza or the extra card for the deck. You can awaken when your life is 4 or less, you untap one, draw one, but what you will do pretty much every game is when you activate swap on 2 or more energy, you flip over, draw 2 and go down to 6 life. Oh, that's it. Round 3 I played against set 20, Android 21, and I managed to get the win there as well. And then on the back side, when you activate swap, once per turn you draw a card, and when your first 3 cost or higher Frieza with swap attacks per turn, you check up to 3 cards from the top of your deck and combo with a Frieza's army amongst them. So really, really easy Z energy generation, which is great because you're going to be dropping a couple of Z leaders per game, and very nice draw power just on both sides of the leader, and it means that your awakened turn you can draw like 4 cards just off the leader alone. And then plus take down to 6 if you're on higher than 6 life. So to go through the deck, we're running 4 copies of the 1-drop, of course, because you need to be seeing it turn 1 to play the game. And if you don't see it turn 1, you just hard mulligan for either this card or the extra card, which can search this. You can obviously hit this on your top 5 of the leader skill, so it's very rare that you don't see this. I think I've only had it in all my time playing the deck. I've only missed this guy twice, I think. Yeah, it's very rare, it's very easy to find this card, but this is just the centerpiece of the deck. Deflect Barrier 1-drop, swaps into the 3-drop for free, and when it's played, you can swap a Frieza with swap in your Z energy with a card in your hand. So again, making use of the fact that you're comboing a lot of Frieza's armies, it means that you kind of, like, there will be turns where you want to keep specific Friezas in your Z energy so that you can be adding them back to keep your chains going. So then it means you have to kind of dance around which Z energy you want to be pitching for, like Z Awakens and stuff. So that's another thing to consider. In terms of the 3-drop ratios, I'm running 4 of the TP, 2 of the Rest and KO or 4 cost, and 1 of the free combo guy. This has been my ratios for a while. I know there was a recent change with swap as well, where you can no longer reveal a valid target and then swap into another target. You have to either swap into the target you reveal or just not swap into anything, but you always have to reveal a valid target as well. Even prior to that rule change, I was still running 4 copies of the Deflect one, because this is kind of the 3-drop that you mulligan for if you already have the 1-drop. This is the ideal 3-drop to see pretty much in every matchup, unless you really need the removal. Like against Majin Vegeta, I'd consider looking for this 3-drop as well, because this one is definitely the second best one. But there, like, when I tried running 3 copies of this when the deck first came out, and it was just, like, there were times where I just wouldn't be able to see it, and this card, because it searches and basically filters out your deck, and then you can basically swap cards in your hand with almost any Frieza's army from your deck or from your Z energy with the 1-drop. It just means that you can set up your swap chains super easily, and then it also has Deflect, so on turns where you cannot afford to get hit with a counterplay, this will just save you. So even prior to the swap change, I still felt like 4 copies of this was correct, but now with the swap change where you have to go into the target you reveal, it feels even more necessary, just because again, you can get punished with counterplays much harder now. And then 2 copies of this one, which is the when it comes into play, you rest one of your opponent's battle cards, and then if it costs 4 or less, you KO it. This is definitely the second best one against decks like Majin Vegeta, Green Gohan. Like, you can get loads of early board removal. Even against Android 21, if they drop any Z battle cards, you just clear them off before they can rest them for their energy. It's very, very strong. It's very nice for later on. You can use it to rest any sort of token negates that might come down. Obviously, it won't KO the token, but it just rests it so they can't use blocker. You can also use it to rest the Gogeta secret rare, and then you can use, Final Flash the Gogeta secret rare and then pop it because it's in rest mode and you're a yellow deck. Yeah, this card is definitely the second best of the 3-drops, and then this one is just same auto as your leader backside. When it swings, you check top 3 to combo. This card is really awkward. It's pretty much only relevant on a kill turn where you obviously want to apply more pressure with the fact that you're going to combo an extra card here. But it's also especially good against like 20k Z leaders, or if your opponent is blue and running Bean, that sort of thing. Because 20k Z leader is becoming like the prime standard for a good deck at the moment. It feels like, so that's kind of where this card comes in on a kill turn, because the rest of your 3-drops are only 19k. Whilst this guy is 19k, he'll become effectively 24k or 29k depending on what you can combo. So on kill turns it's really nice, but it's definitely the weakest of the 3-drops because it doesn't give you any sort of natural advantage or filter. It's only really good on a kill turn. And there are lots of times where I was just charging this or using it for Z energy. It's still worth having in the deck just as a one-off, I feel, but it's not the worst thing if, like, you don't see it in a particular game. It's just nice to have that extra name almost. And then in terms of the 5-drops, I'm running 3 of the Goku Frieza, 2 of the Barrier Blocker, and 2 of the Double Strike Gainer. I was initially running this guy at 4 copies and then this card at 1 copy, because I found the main power of this card is that you mostly just play it on turn 3 to guarantee that you have a 3-drop to stick around for your turn 4 to go try and kill them on turn 4. But I did find that there were a lot of times where, the 1 copy would be in life where I really needed it, or if I couldn't kill turn 4, then they'd just be able to clear my board and I'd have nothing to go into turn 5. So the second copy of this is very relevant. And I'm not going into this card as much as I expected to anymore, to be honest. And again, because the extra card, the deck is so easily filterable because you can Z-charge so much of your deck in a turn and then just swap it out with the 1-drop for whatever sort of part of the chain you need. But also the fact that you have the top 5 searcher with the TP, and you also have the extra card that can search for any of these cards at will, just straight from your deck. So like the deck is, you don't have to max out on really any of the swap targets apart from the 1-drop, and I would argue the TP Frieza, because it's kind of enabling that consistency for the deck throughout the rest of the game. Like you don't really have to max out on any of the cards, because as soon as you see one, you can just keep playing that over and over, and then obviously when you swap it back to your hand, you can then just use it next turn as another chain. It's, yeah, very, very nice for that aspect. What I find myself doing most of the time, obviously turn 1 I'm playing a 1-drop, turn 2 I'm swapping into a 3-drop and then swapping into this 5-drop, and then either leaving the 1 energy open if I need to riposte or Mataito or something like that, or I'll pay the 1 to play a 1-drop if I don't need to be defensive or a counterplay or anything. And especially if they don't have any sort of barrier removal, I'll play the 1-drop down, and then turn 3 I'll go into this guy. So then ideally I have these 2 5-drops sticking around and maybe a 1-drop on board on turn 3 as well, so that going into turn 4 I'm ready to swap into 8-drops and also use the 1-drop to go up a new chain as well and potentially go into this guy. This 5-drop is especially good on kill turns because of the fact that it can effectively restart half a chain for free, because it can replay the 1-drops. From your drop or from your hand, so it means that you can do some cool things where you stack your you stack extra copies of your 1-drop to the top of your deck with your 3-drop. You then combo it into Z energy, use the Z energy to Z awaken, and then you can use this guy to replay the 1-drops from your drop, so that you just get like free card advantage for that. And it's also barrier removal, which is like really relevant, but it's also just removal, which honestly this deck doesn't have a huge amount of removal. Outside of this card, it is really just the this 3-drop here that can KO 4 cost or less, and then your 8-drop. That's kind of about it. So this card is very important just for that kind of bigger than 4 cost removal when you're not going into your 8-drop, that is. Also, this card is really good on kill turns because of the fact that it can gain dual attack when you get 3 or more energy, which means that on your Z Awaken turns, you can swing twice with it. 2 swings for 20k plus the combo that you would get off your Z leader, which obviously means effectively you're going to get probably 2 25k swings or a couple of 30k swings if you're lucky with the 8-drop combos. But it also means you get some extra Z energy, which is really nice. And then I am also running 4 copies of the 8-drop. I believe that 4 is the correct number just because of the fact that you can't grab it back from your Z energy with the 1-drop because it doesn't have swap, which was pointed out to me when I was playing this in the locals at one point. Because I didn't realize that initially when I was first playing the deck. But yeah, because this guy doesn't have swap, you can't grab it off of the 1-drop from Z energy, and you also can't grab it off of the extra card just from searching, because the extra card only grabs 5 cost or less swap targets. So I do believe you have to play 4, because ideally going into kill turns you want one of this in Z energy and one of this in hand, so you ideally need to be seeing like 2 copies of this. But yeah, this card is very, very strong. Just the fact that it's like a double strike dual attacker, 30k for 1 energy, and you're again getting a free combo with your Z leader on both swings, is incredible. And then also the fact that you can then use it to free play a 1-drop, which I think I did it every game. I was using it either turn 3 or turn 4, depending on how much energy I needed to keep up on turn 3 for defense. Like against Green Gohan, I think I ended up using this skill on turn 3 just so that I could keep up 2 energy, for 1 for Mataito or Cold Bloodlust, and 1 for Riposte, while still going into like my 1-drop into 5-drop thing. But yeah, the 8-drop is really good. Also, it's worth clarifying, this list is currently 50 cards as per all of my lists pretty much. I do think there is the option to go for a 60 card list where you try and play a bit more control, because this version is definitely tailored towards the more aggressive version. But I think there's a version where you can maybe play a bit more control and potentially resolve 2 copies of this card's skill from the Z energy per game, rather than just the 1, and just use it to play like more barrier blockers out. And then eventually like build a much larger board but go a lot later into the game to try and kill them, and play maybe some more generic yellow stuff because you're at 60 cards. I think that build would obviously be a bit less consistent, but it would maybe have some better matchups into decks that run lots of flipgates kind of thing, just because you can play the long game a lot easier and not worry about decking out so much. But I just like 50 cards, and I didn't like, that's quite a drastic change to make to the deck, I feel, so I didn't want to start looking into that so late into playing the deck. Plus I really just enjoyed like the explosive turn 4 pushes that you can do with this deck if your opponent doesn't respect it. So that's kind of the main reason why I started playing the deck anyways. And then going into some more generic yellow stuff, for riposte, this card obviously has great extra synergy with the deck because it's a Frieza's army and a Frieza. So you can search it off of your leader front side, you can search it off of your TP, and you can also combo it off of your combo effects from top of deck. And you also have a searchable extra card that's in archetype for 0 cost, so it's really easy to set this card up as well. However, because you're a much more aggressive deck, you're not actually using this card all that much, other than in like certain matchups against Green Gohan, this card is really good. But in a lot of matchups, this card doesn't really come up, other than sometimes like a 1 cost just negate plus a 15k body. The floodgate effect often doesn't come up all that much, and then like a lot of the time it is just a combo target for leader top 3. 2 Sins, I don't think I played this card once today. You side it out against like Green Gohan and Android 21, so it definitely came out in 2 of those games. And then in the other games I just didn't see it, to be honest. It would have been really nice to see against Trunks, it would have been really nice to see against Soul Striker, but yeah, I pretty much just didn't draw this card all day, to be honest. It's definitely a very good card. I still think you keep it at 2, but yeah. I am also running 2 copies of the Goku Vegeta, so the reason I put this card in this slot, these 2 cards are definitely the most flexible in the deck. You can definitely swap these for a whole range of cards, and I was trying a whole range of cards in these 2 slots for a long time. I was trying like Realm of the Gods, I was trying the Vegito counterplay, which I ended up moving to the sideboard. I tried a whole load of different cards here. Nothing really fitted. I ended up slotting these in because I had a lot of games in testing against Mikey, where we would test Majin Vegeta versus this deck, and he would just kind of stall me at 6 life, and then I couldn't really apply as much pressure as I wanted to early, and then the later into the game it got, the more hairy it would get. It still wasn't necessarily like unwinnable matchup, it was fairly 50-50 once we got to that late game, but it just meant that I couldn't be as aggressive with my free combo skills on the Z Awaken turns, or with the free play effect of the 8-drop from Z Energy. So this card is quite nice for self-awakening to get you from 6 to 5, because you can free play it off of the 5-drop SR. I don't think I played it all day today, however, because what I ended up doing most of the time was using Surmounting from the Z deck, and people just didn't counterplay that in the end because I'd either play it too early or they just didn't have the counterplay. And so Surmounting ended up working out fine, but if people were counterplaying Surmounting, this is a nice backup option. I think going forward I will continue to keep this card in the deck, but I definitely understand people who would take it out. It's definitely not an MVP card, because especially later into the game as well, most of the time you're just using the 5-drop to restart a chain rather than playing this out. But there are definitely times where you might just need like 1 double strike swing to kill, and this will come up because you have that 5-drop on board. And again, getting from 6 to 5 life is super important, so this also helps for that sometimes. But yeah, it hasn't really come up for me, all that option. It was just a cute little tech choice. And then the one overrealm is Vegeta. I think this is just the best overrealm in the game at the moment, and I don't see a reason why you wouldn't run it in here. And then in terms of sort of free negate stuff and other support cards, 2 Metacooler and 2 Sorbet, and then 2 of the other Sorbet. I think this is just fine. Like, if you see 1 of each of these per game, then you're kind of set. They're all amazing cards, to be honest. There was sometimes I was siding out 1 Metacooler, but that was only in the matchups where I was siding in about 6 cards. Like, most of the time you have a lot of side deck space in this deck, just because like the thing with yellow is like yellow has answers for every situation. It's just about like what cards are good in which matchups. So you can just side out the ones that are bad in the matchups and side in the ones that are good. Sorry if this is all a bit rambly, by the way. I'm quite tired. It's like I said, it's like 2:30 in the morning, so but yeah, felt like putting the video out now as soon as I could. I'm feeling motivated about Dragon Ball again, so it's all good. We're on the Gohan Piccolo Super Combo, Secret Rare, and then 3 Krillins. Krillin just helps you dig really nicely for when you're stacking your deck with your leader skills throughout the game. And there were lots of times where I would just like use my leader skill to bottom deck my SCR because I see it in the top 3 cards. And then from there I just keep track of how many cards away from the top of the deck my SCR is, and then if I need to I just super combo into it or use the 8-drop skill to remove top 5 cards of my deck. It's a very, very rewarding thing to keep track of. And then once you get the hang of that, you can start like just keeping track of your entire deck. Like there was a game today against I believe it was against the Green Gohan, where I had I believe I had 17 cards left in my deck, and the bottom 12 cards I knew exactly the order of all of them because I'd done a Z-Awaken turn, and then I used an 8-drop to remove the top 5 cards in my deck, and then I went super combo. I know the next 2 cards I'm drawing are super combos, and then I know the next 2 cards I'm drawing are like Overwhelm and Secret Rare from there. So I just kind of super comboed into all of the bits that I needed because I knew the top 5 cards were kind of useless anyways, and the main chunk of my deck was going to be after those 5 cards. So that's like I say, that's a big reason why I play this deck, is the fact that you can effectively stack your deck however you want throughout the game, and once it gets to that like late game kill turn, you just know the entire order of your deck, which is a very, very broken thing to be able to do. In terms of extra cards, we're obviously running the 4 Return of the Army of Terror. It's your searcher for the deck, and it's also a bean, which is insane. 2 Frieza's Army Reinforcements, and then, so the Frieza's Army Reinforcements, like I say, you need to be at 4 or less life for the Z-Awaken. Getting from 6 to 5 is the main thing. A lot of the time I was dropping Surmounting on turn 2 if I was scared that later on they might have counterplays, just to guarantee that I'd get from 6 to 5. And then to get from 5 to 4, you have Frieza's Army. I did try Time Magic in the deck, but Frieza's Army is just more consistent just because you don't fill up the drop area all that much early on. And by the time you filled it up, you'll be on less than 4 life or 5 life anyway, so the Time Magic sparking effect is nowhere near as relevant, whereas this just helps you get to that Z-Awaken. Maybe in a more control-y deck, or a more control-y version of the deck, you run Time Magics instead, because Time Magic is probably overall a better negate. Although, to be fair, with Gogeta coming into the meta, maybe I think Frieza's Army, like token negates, can come back into the meta now, with Gohan and Gogeta being some of the preconceived top decks. But yeah, like I say, if you run a 60 card version that's trying to go more late game, then maybe Time Magic or other negates are a bit better, and you don't need to worry about rushing Z-Awaken on turn 4 as I do. And then 1-offs, we have 1 T-Blow, 1 Power of the Super Saiyan, 1 Cold Bloodlust. Obviously these 2 you can only run at 1 copy each, and they're both very, very strong cards. And then the 1 T-Blow, we have more copies in the side for when you need it, and then we have Cold Bloodlust in the main, so in the worst case scenario, Cold Bloodlust can act as a second T-Blow. But yeah, obviously T-Blow is a great card, and then because it's best of 1 pre-side, in the matchups where I needed more copies, I just side more in. In terms of Z-Deck stuff, I was running 2 Z-Leaders and 2 Sorbets. There is a part of me that wants to go to 3 Z-Leaders. I'm not entirely sure yet. It's something I could potentially test, but in those longer games, I think against Soul Striker, if I'd run 3 Z-Leaders rather than 2, I could have maybe pushed before Time on Time was called a little bit easier, because I ended up having to tap 3 to swap into an 8-drop rather than tapping just the 1. But yeah, it's the Z deck in this deck is really tight. I quite like 2 Sorbets still. Just being able to Z-stack the second one comes up a lot, because I believe you can still use the auto to rest a battle card even if you already have one out, because they are unique. But this card doesn't have to actually come into play to get the rest effect off, because it's all in the same auto. It doesn't have any sort of clause to specify that this needs to come into play for that effect. It just has to come in play for the top 5. So yeah, the second Sorbet is very, very nice, and it definitely came up for me today. 1 Tagoma. This again was another way for me to look into trying to self-awaken early, but it's also a nice way to recycle 1-drops and start a chain that way. Like if you run through your 1-drops, or if a green player uses the Cell Earth Destroying Kamehameha to rip out your only 1-drop, that kind of thing, this is a nice saving grace. But this is definitely the weakest card in the Z deck. I didn't play it at all today, and it's definitely the one that I play the least number of times as well. 1 Oolong, this is obviously like the best yellow Z battle card probably, and then 1 Surmounting because you want to get to 4 life for the Z-Awaken. So going forward, I'd probably consider cutting the Tagoma and maybe including a 3rd Z-Leader. You could arguably include just like a generic Z battle card for yellow, like the Goku or the Vegeta, but I think those are too expensive personally for the aggro version. Again, if you play later game version. To be honest, I think if you play 60 card version, you definitely want 3 Z leaders anyways, because you can afford to run 3 with the deck size. But maybe you look into cutting some of the Self-Awakeners in the Z deck. Maybe the Surmounting comes out for like the Goku or the Vegeta Z battle card. Anyways, going into the sideboard, 2 Flying Nimbus. This is pretty much just for black decks, because black decks thrive on battle card floodgates being the way that they answer your aggression, because they have Super Kamehameha, which will obviously give them more cards in hand, but also get them closer to certain breakpoints like Z Awakens. If you play against Black Trunks and they're on 4 life, and then you try and play a floodgate, they'll Super Kamehameha it and then be able to Z Awaken. Same with Shroom Salsa, because the Z Awaken is 2 or less life. Super Kamehameha aggressively is like the best thing that you can pull off in that deck, so you don't want to give them the option to do that. Not only that, but it will also allow, like if they have Evil Saiyan SCR, which is like the best black SCR at the moment, then they'll be able to steal any floodgates that you might play, and then they'd get the on-play autos if it's their turn as well. So Flying Nimbus is just a great call against black right now, and I have to give a big shout out to my teammate Peter Dance for pushing Flying Nimbus this format, because he has been a big advocate for Flying Nimbus recently. 3 Mutaito, this is for obviously Green Gohan. It can maybe come in against other stuff. I played against Black Trunks today, but I didn't end up siding it because, again, it's a battle card, so it's super vulnerable against black. In theory, it's really good against Black Trunks, but in practice, it'll just get counterplayed. And then the rest of the cards I was siding against Gohan was 2 of the anti-hand control Gohan, and then 1 Hunter the Demon God. The 1 Hunter the Demon God was a super last minute addition, and it didn't end up coming up. I didn't end up seeing it in the Green Gohan matchup, but because I won the dice roll, it didn't really matter. But yeah, in theory it was for Green Gohan, because like I say, I'm not playing a slower version. I'm trying to kill on turn 4 or 5. So I don't think I have the energy to expend for a cooler counter, so I just went for Hunt instead, because the main card I want to be negating anyways is the free Dormants or the free Uneasings. So Hunt kind of does the same job as Cooler, but for 2 less energy. Obviously it's not going to be as consistent if they pay 1 for either of their floodgates, or if I just play against a deck that isn't going to run those floodgates, like, well, any other deck that isn't Green Gohan basically. But yeah, Hunt was a very last minute addition. I was initially running just the 1 Chi-Chi instead for like generic blue decks like Soul Striker, and maybe that was the better call, but I had that 1 bad game against Green Gohan that I was testing the night before, and I was like, right, I'm just going to side 1 Hunt just in case. Like I say, it didn't come up. Also, Sun Gohan is very good against Android 21. Again, shout out to Peter for putting me on that. Because what I was doing today was I was just swinging through their 4-drop floodgate. They tapped out for the 4-drop floodgate, and then I would swing through it. This deck has very easy Z energy generation, so I drop a Z energy, discard this card from my hand, play it, draw 1, and then combo this card off to get another Z energy. It's just a way to get free attacks through that floodgate. It's very, very strong. And then also because you know, every 3 cost or higher on the backside, or every 5 cost or higher, not once per turn on the Z leader, is going to give you a free Z energy anyway. So swinging through that floodgate, if you've got a couple of these in hand to just start it off, is very, very easy for this deck. And then we've got 2 more T-Blows. Again, this is for Android 21 just to stop the early ramp. It's also quite nice against Kusus or defending friends that they might drop on you throughout the game. I don't know what else I'd side this in against. It's mainly there for Android 21. But it's T-Blow, it's a good card. And then last card for Android 21 is a Trunks the Cunning. This is again just a one-off. If you see it, it's really nice just to scare them off playing the 8-drop, because the 8-drop clears everything ignoring barrier, and this deck's main protection for its battle cards is barrier, other than the 1 5-drop that just protects itself for a turn, which is a really good card to play when you think that they're going to drop an 8-drop or SCR, which is what I did against Android 21. Just dropped a copy of that card when they were going to drop SCR, and a copy of that card when they dropped the 8-drop. Yeah, Trunks the Cunning is nice when you see it, but it's not the worst when you don't. Arguably, it could maybe come out, but I'm not sure. 2 Final Flash. This I think needs to go to 3 copies. It felt like the main reason I won the Gogeta matchup was just because I saw 2 of these by turn 4, and it was just completely backbreaking. So arguably you cut the Trunks the Cunning or the Hunt to go for another Final Flash. And then the last card in the side deck was 2 Vegetos. This is just for Golden Frieza basically, because you have no real way to defend from a flurry of unison attacks. I'm not entirely sure if this card is even necessary anymore, because first of all, Golden Frieza can just like T-blow or cooler counter this if they need to. Yes, it does cause them to then expend energy, but I'm not sure if, you know, if they're going for the kill, I'm not sure if it's really worth it there anyways. But on top of that, your Z-Lead is 20k base, and with the extra card it's going to be 25k base, so a flurry of 25k swings from a Unison is like, I don't actually know if this card is worth playing just for that. And then if they try to kill you with their other main way of killing people being Golden Cooler SCR, you have Cold Bloodlust for that. So unless you don't see it and they play really disrespectfully, then you're kind of fine against Golden Frieza. So I'm not sure if Vegeta is worth running. But again, like I say, I was just playing this deck for fun, really, and I didn't really do any testing. The side deck was very kind of theory based, and I didn't end up playing against any Golden Frieza, so this card didn't end up coming in at all, anyways. But that is the deck profile. Like I say, ended up finishing 8th place, which I am very happy with, to be fair. It is a shame that the tournament got cut short, because I did really want to push for that top 4 or top 3 for the extra prizes. And I potentially could have done if we'd been able to play that last round out, but it happens. But yeah, super happy to be a bit more motivated to play the game now that you know, events are starting to kick back in after the Fusion World announcement. Really excited to go into the new set. Once I get a lot of the cards that I'm after, I'm going to be playing a lot of decks. I'm very excited about this set, and I think it's one of the best sets that they've released in a long time. Hope that you guys have enjoyed. Thanks again for the 1,000 subs. You have no idea how much that kind of thing means to me. Like, it is truly amazing that I've been able to go on this journey. And yeah, that is going to be it from me for tonight, guys. Thank you very much for watching, as always, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.